everyone. This is Julie Wyatt going over the statistics in education, aka option number 3 for the project in research methods this summer. So I wanted to talk about when I got started in researching some of these articles. The number one thing was narrowing down the topics was really kind of hard because you could put in one type of topic and then there's like 10,000 different articles. And so as Dr. Reber has pointed out, definitely narrowing down the topics is key. So some of the subject focus areas I looked for was instructional design because we're in the instructional design program, and the focus on e-learning or online learning, along with academic advising because I'm currently an academic advisor. So I thought it might be fun to look up some research topics in that realm. And while I was doing this, it really came down to review categories and review again. And when I say this, it means when I was first doing the search, I would look at all the articles that are on there and I tried to narrow it down with quantitative research. And then I would click on the article and pull it up, anything that was interesting that stood out in the title. And then from the title, I wore it down to like a little bit of segmenting of like, was this ANOVA? Was it Pearson correlation coefficient? Was it a t-test? And then continued to kind of whittle it down into the 4 categories that we had to do. So for our first one, the statistics focus was the Pearson correlation coefficient. And the article I chose was A Novice Instructional Designer's Attitudes Towards the Best Possible Self Activity and the Correlation with Personality and Subjective Well-Being. That's a mouthful. But ultimately, the article is studying this terminology called best possible self intervention and correlates the impact of the best possible self with attitude, openness to experience, and subjective well-being. For the Pearson correlation, the purpose of it is meant to show a relationship between 2 variables, and there's a proven statistical relationship among most of the variables. So in this case, it was trying to determine between the attitude and the well-being. And they had broken the attitude into several different categories. And I wrote some of them in, but they did it by like abbreviation. So CL stands for cognitive load, AL stands for affective load, BL is behavioral load, and SL is social load. And then the SWLS stands for satisfaction with life scale, and that's on the well-being portion, along with the PA as positive affect. And so their findings of this article said that those first 3, the cognitive load, affective load, and behavioral load, definitely had a significant correlated relationship with the satisfaction of life scale along with the positive affect, but there was not one with the social load. So that was just an interesting kind of tidbit to learn. So why I chose this article in general was because within the article, I really appreciated that the authors already acknowledged that there wasn't a control group. So they were like, take this with what you want to take it as. But if you're going to do this in the future, we strongly suggest to do a control group. Also, the following sentence that was in this article just made me laugh because, of course, these combined findings seem to suggest that the behavioral intervention, best possible self, might not work as well under the conditions of a global pandemic as it does under typical conditions. Yes, I think we can all relate to that. So our next statistics focus was an independent sample t-test. The title of the article that I chose was Microlearning and Learning Performance in Higher Education, a post-test control group study. This study researches the effectiveness of microlearning modules in a higher education setting by using the treatment and post-test control group of first-year MBA students. In general, right, an independent sample t-test is trying to figure out if there is a difference in an intervention. And one way to do that is through experiment and control groups, with the experimental group receiving the microlearning modules in this case, and the control group receiving a traditional document-based module. Why I chose this article, having a better understanding of statistical context The data was really easy to understand, and even if I didn't have the knowledge that I have now, the authors explain the information in a really good way to make it very accessible for an average person. And I also chose this example because I think microlearning trends in instructional design is really high right now. I didn't actually talk about what the results were. So the results of the independent sample t-test, it showed that there was a significant relationship, specifically the hypothesis of the use of microlearning modules were significantly impact the level of learning. It was accepted because the experimental group mean was significantly higher than the control group mean, with a probability less than 0.05. So there wasn't really any chance that there was something else going on. So this intervention definitely had an effect. And it seems microlearning is a very good way to go, according to this article. The next one we have as a statistics focus is dependent sample t-test. And the title of this article is Developing Visible Thinking and Motivation Through the Curricular Design of an Escape Room in Higher Education. So this article is focusing on the pedagogical aspect of an escape room, excuse me for butchering that, and studying its structure and how this can contribute to the learning experience if properly designed. So the dependent sample t-test purpose, again, it's correlated samples, also referred to as, is to compare the means of before and after an intervention takes place. And in this case, there were 3 groups with before and after scores based on their degree program for the research. So there was infant education, primary education, and social education as the degree programs that were part of the study. The results of this one, the research question was, is the quality of the instructional design of the escape room adequate to enhance learning? And the t-test for it compared the results of pre and post test measures of academic performance and show that there is significant differences in performance because the p-value is 0.00 for all of the degree programs. So it definitely made a difference for all of them. So it means that there's a statistical evidence to support the use of an escape room as an instructional method. But why I chose this, I think the idea of creating an escape room for instruction is really exciting, both for an instructor and for the students. And the article itself mentions the following that I agree with. An instructor shouldn't just create an escape room just for the sake of an escape room, but make sure that it's well thought out in order to be executed to its fullest potential, as well as be beneficial to the learners. The next one is statistics focus for ANOVA, or analysis of variance. So the research article that I chose was the correlation of financial stress and educational teaching factors on students during online learning during COVID-19 pandemic. I feel like this is very applicable to a lot of people. So the research, again, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the study explored the relationship between financial stress and educational teaching factors among 380 students across different degree programs at the Kosovo's university. In those 3 degree programs, I mean, it really kind of spanned a lot, but it was PhD, master, and bachelor's degrees. Again, as I mentioned, an ANOVA is the analysis of variance, which statistically shows us the comparison of means across multiple independent groups and determines whether there is a significant difference in means among those groups. It lets us know if there's an impact between variables and if the results are from simple chance. For this article, the ANOVA shows that financial stress and educational teachings are related within online learning, which, I mean, it makes sense. Why I chose this article in particular, I automatically felt like there's obviously a relationship between the two, but I can appreciate how with quantifiable data, you can show this to like higher authorities, especially like in my job in higher education administration, what those factors are and show them the relationship between them. I hope that you enjoy this presentation. Thanks. Bye.